How's everyone doing? Dylan, the SDR Whisperer here, having another student spotlight with my girl Christine. How are you doing?
Doing swell.
Glad to hear it. We were just chatting. Chicago at the moment, travel a lot. Tell people a little bit who you are, what you're about, what you're doing.
Well, my name's Christine, and what I'm about, I'm a lot, you know? There's like a lot of parts of me, right? And I'm very human, right? Moving from the full spectrum of pain to enjoyment and joy. And, what I'm doing in life right now is kind of moving through that scale and really getting called up to the challenge that God keeps presenting to me. And one of those challenges and opportunities actually has been sales. So I've been in the sales world, I would say, for the past 6 months and really just kind of learning and growing through that process in a very beautiful way. And yeah, it just feels like life is really taking shape and falling into my purpose and really excited about it.
What were you? So obviously 6 months been in the sales game. What did you do pre-sales?
Yeah, great question, Dylan. So I've been in the restaurant industry for about 10 years, anywhere from serving to bartending, managing. I've been married to a restaurant, the whole kit and caboodle. But to be quite honest, really recognized, especially after I got sober in 2019, that the restaurant world is not for me. It served a beautiful purpose, and I'm so very grateful for the opportunity there to grow in the way that I needed to, but really have known that that chapter had been ending, and now I'm about to close that book for sure.
Love that. Yeah, I actually that was my first job was I was a dishwasher. I did expediting, so like
Yep.
kind of like I guess line cook type stuff. And then I helped like bar back and stuff like that. Yeah, I could definitely, seeing the environment and like the people that have been there for like a long time, I could definitely see how that's not once a shift is over, everyone drinks, everyone hangs out.
Mhm.
I could definitely
Yeah.
see that's not conducive for sobering up, especially being a bartender. Pretty hard to be a sober bartender.
You really don't know if the drinks you're making actually taste good either.
Yeah, I've seen some people like down the shore and stuff. One shot for you, one shot for me, one shot for you. I'm like, I don't know how you work these hours doing that. But no, it's awesome. You've been able to close that chapter. What brought you to sales?
And that's a great question. And I was really reflecting on it. It kind of is just like a God thing. I ended up going on a 2 week long solo road trip this past summer, actually, because my aunt had stage 4 cancer and she lived in California. And yeah, something told me, God told me, like, you need to go on this road trip. And okay, God, like, gonna listen to you, I guess. Never done anything like this before in my
Yeah.
life, but sure. And within that road trip, being able to see her, my family, it just was such a yes moment that needed to happen for me. And within that, I was able to stop in Colorado. And I have known Jake for quite some time now. And he actually wasn't even there. He so happened to be in Chicago while I was there in Denver. So we had like
Classic.
flip-flopped. But, I was there talking with some of our friends, and there was a conversation that had been had, not even for me, it was for somebody else, explaining what Jake actually did for a living. And I had no idea really like what he was doing. He tried to explain it a couple times, and I'm like, I don't really get it. And within that conversation, it like clicked. It was like, oh my gosh, he basically trains salespeople for remote positions. I'm a gal that loves to travel. I want to move to Colorado. I want to go see the world, and be able to do it comfortably and sustainably, right? And
Yeah.
not be married to a restaurant, married to a specific place, right? Physically. And so within that, I knew the next step. I didn't even say anything in that conversation. I just knew the second I was going to get home, I was going to have a conversation with Jake to see, what the steps were going to be. Yeah, it just like all fell into place, had that conversation, and it was kind of like the rest was history from there.
There you go. Yeah, it's hard to explain, what it is that we do. It's like, yeah, I just, work on a laptop. I speak with strangers all day long and I make money doing it. It's a little bit against the normal go into the office 9 to 5, a lot more freedom, a lot more earnings potential. So glad it's aligned with kind of what you want and what you're about. So you got into sales. How was the transition? Because we have a lot of people that come from the restaurant industry or hospitality industry. I feel like it's kind of sales, but people don't think of it as sales. Because like at the end of the day, sales is just two people, like what we're doing right now, right? Like two people
Yeah.
just having conversation.
Yeah.
How did those skills like transfer into sales now that you're in sales for a decent amount of time?
Yeah, that's a great question. And that's kind of where it felt like natural to kind of move into like a sales role, just because, in the service industry, you essentially are a salesperson, right? Like you're working for a restaurant, right? And then you have guests come in. Those are like inbound leads, right? Like they're choosing to come in. They know what the product is. They want to inquire more information, and they come in and they sit down, and you just kind of help guide them to what they actually want, right? Like asking them the right questions. For me, as a server working in a restaurant, like I know the food, I know what's good, I know all across the spectrum of what we have to offer, but the guest doesn't, right? So it's kind of like helping them to lead them to like exactly where they want to go.
And that's like the funny thing with sales is everyone thinks it's like this big scary thing, but it's like things that you've been doing for a long time already. You just don't think of it in that frame of thinking of perception. And like, I'm sure if I asked Christine 7 months ago, what are the correlations between hospitality and sales? You're like, I don't know. But now you're like, oh, they're inbound leads and I'm helping them. Hilarious. So you've been in there for 6 months. What has kind of the experience been with kind of SDR Whisperer, working with companies, actually doing sales, speaking with people? What has that all been like?
Yeah, and I think there's a difference between like an idea in our head of like what something is and then actually getting into it, right? And I think if I didn't have the SDR Whisperer, I probably would have quit like way long ago, because
Yeah.
the thing is actually diving into it, there are many different like nuances in which, like, especially if you're coming from not having really any experience, to have the support of like you, Jake, Sam, Ben, people who actually have been through the process, who genuinely want you to succeed and help raise you up. Like that has been so helpful, because going through all of the course modules, right? It gives you like a base foundation of like what to expect, right? So it kind of like is a preparatory system that gets you in the right mindset of like what you're about to embark on, right? And so going through the checks and balances and having you guys check in on, what's my tonnage like? How am I presenting myself, to really give me a fair shot stepping in for the first time, right? Has been so, so helpful, and is continuing to give me the confidence to step into these roles, step into this newness, right? The unknown, starting something new. And so with that being said, having my first role, it was cold calling too, just like
Yeah.
diving head first into cold calling, just like calling people out of the blue and trying to have these conversations. There definitely was some rub. There was some fear that was involved in that, like breaking through that ice of not being so nervous and being
Who the hell are
shaky.
you? Why are you calling me?
Yeah, exactly. And the fear of rejection and all of that. But the thing is, going through a lot of that and having the support of the community to fall back on, doing the role plays. Oh my gosh, I love role plays, by the way. Like, call me the role play queen, because like I would do that anytime, all day, because it's so helpful, and it really helped me find that confidence, right? And weed out the things that were unnecessary to allow me to get better and better at my job.
Yeah.
And after the weeks kind of went through with my first role, it was like, oh my gosh, like this is actually fun. Like I'm having a ball. I started talking with people, having conversations, because it's just like conversations with people
Yeah.
and get to know them. And like, do they need what we're offering? And like, if so, like, let's guide you there.
Yeah, when you make it fun, it is fun. When you think of it as like this laborious thing, like, gotta make cold calls today. That's
Yeah.
kind of the results you get, right? But if you have that attitude going into it, you get a better result. So you had your first role. Now, in just as little as 6 months, you've been transitioning into a closer role, correct?
Yes, yeah.
Nice.
With that being said, yeah, just diving in headfirst to cold calling, I feel like was exactly what I needed to actually gain the skills necessary to step into a closing role, because it kind of is very similar in a sense of the nuances in which the conversation kind of requires. And yeah, so like getting that experience and like breaking through that fear, kind of that grit, initial grit, landing in a place of feeling really good and like free to have these conversations and really get to know people and hold this space for other people. Yeah, that was like what I needed for then a beautiful opportunity to present itself for me to step into that closing role where now I get to like make my schedule. Now I get to have these longer, deeper conversations with people where I really get to like guide them to their desired outcome and like what they want. And it feels so purposeful for me too, because the role that I have now literally is in such alignment to just like who I am as like a person, right? I love health and wellness. I'm working in an industry that I absolutely love and my heart is connected into. So it literally feels like I'm living out my purpose being here.
That's awesome. That's what we aim to do, right? Is give you those introductory skills, get you that confidence, get you the repetitions, then you can continue to build on those and, like you said, ascend. Have you started taking closing calls? I know it's been pretty recent. Have you been on the calendar or are you still kind of in training and things like that?
Yeah, so I am just wrapping up my training right now, and literally next week I'll be getting my first closing calls. So I've been working hand in hand with my boss, shadowing him, watching him and his process. So I'm so excited to just like, and that's the fun thing about it too. It's like this role right now where I'm at. Oh my gosh, if I were to have just stepped into this off the bat without going through the preliminary steps, I would be shaking in my boots right now. Like, what the heck am I doing? Is
Yeah.
this right? Is this wrong? But it's like, I feel so confident. Of course, there's going to be things that are going to need to be adjusted over time, as anything is, right? But like, ultimately, that foundation is there where I'm
Yeah.
like, yeah, like, let's get it. I am so for it.
I'm happy for you. I'm excited to see you in the wind channel when you close your first deal.
I'll be there.
You don't forget your first close. It's a
Yeah.
good feeling. And then everything else from there is easy. But awesome, Christine. This has been a great conversation. So, like I said before we started the recording, is like these videos aim to just educate people on like if they're curious about the SDR Whisperer, what we're all about, what they can expect through it. So, if you were to go back, what would you tell yourself before getting into the program, that like what kind of skepticisms you might have, or just kind of talking about your overall experience speaking to someone that hasn't joined yet?
Follow the call, follow your heart. You're here for a reason. You found this course for a reason. It found you for a reason. There's no coincidences, and just trust it, right? Trust your heart, trust your intuition on it, because that is what's going to lead you to your dreams, right? This course will also help you support that in so many ways than one.
Appreciate that. It takes both sides. Like you are very active. You show up to the calls, you do the role plays, you applied yourself, we applied ourselves, and that's how we got here, which is awesome because it does take two sides, right? But no, I appreciate that. So if people wanted to connect with you, Christine, know what you're all about, follow you, where would someone find you?
You can find me on Instagram, Christine, Christine, period, Chajka, Czajka. You can find me there and yeah, chat with me. I mean, I would love to touch bases. And yeah, feel free to reach out to Dylan too, and he can send you my information as well. So
Yeah, we'll have that linked in the description if you want to find and follow Christine. And if you've watched this long, I appreciate you. If you want to join the SDR Whisperer and be on one of these calls like Christine, in a little 6 months, go from never been in sales to already into a closer role. There's a link in the description to join the SDR Whisperer, book a call, speak with myself and my team, and we'll see you in the next one.